Welcome back. I'm Adrienne, your expert on all things custom home building and luxury. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend how much fun we have on the Fraser Homes channel. So today we are talking about what your project manager should not be doing. In an episode before, you remember we talked about what your project manager is doing on your Fraser Home project. We'll link that episode below. Don't forget to comment and talk about some of the things that your project managers are doing on your job. But today we want to talk about what is a no-no on a Fraser Homes job, and specifically what project managers should not be doing. So number one, project managers should not be ineffectively communicating. So that ineffective communication shows up by not properly documenting, not having a cadence in how communication comes across or the modality. So, for example, if you prefer to have communication via email, via text, obviously, we use Buildertrend, but whatever communication modality you like, if your project manager is not regularly communicating with you, it is a problem. That communication also shows up in terms of how we are communicating with our subs and vendors. So of course we're communicating with you in terms of the status of your project, but remember, we are coordinating this entire process from start to finish. So how are we communicating with architects and engineers? How are we communicating with our subs and our vendors? How are we communicating with suppliers? All of those things matter. And if your project manager is not properly communicating, you can guarantee that there's going to be some problems on your job. And that is not what we want to see in terms of project management. So another area of no in terms of what your project manager should not be doing is your project manager should not be loafing off in terms of studying. Yes, there is homework that is required when you are building a Fraser home. We have never built the same house twice. So that means that every job requires a new eye, a new attention to detail, looking at the foundation. Do we have language in the foundation that is not produced or provided in another foundation drawing? All of those details. What is going on in terms of the stone? Are you going to have full depth or are you going to have a cut stone? All of that information requires study. Obviously, a lot of that shows up in our specifications, and we've talked about that in times past. But if the project manager is not studying, if they are not looking at the drawings, if they are not looking at the specifications, if they do not have an understanding of your selections have a direct impact on the efficacy of the overall job. If the project manager is not studying, it means they're not doing their job. Okay, the next one is collaboration. Obviously, the collaboration happens because of what? An interdisciplinary team. But besides the interdisciplinary team, we are also talking about the collaboration between you as a homeowner, if that is the role that you're playing, between you as a subcontractor, if that's the role that you're playing, between you and the vendor, if that is the role. And there has to be collaboration. As a matter of fact, collaboration happens with different trades. So, for example, the trim carpenters will have to collaborate with the countertop installers. The countertop installers will have to collaborate with the appliance installers. That collaboration, if the project manager is not leading that collaboration, then you can guarantee that there's going to be problems on the job. And those problems will show up in the form as, you guessed it, downtime. Downtime is going to show up. And so if your project manager is failing to communicate, is failing to collaborate, is failing to study the actual drawings and the specifications, that project manager is probably not the right project manager for your project. Now, another area is poor time management. The time is one of our greatest resources. So if we're not managing our time well, that means that we're interfering with the progress of the job, but we're also interfering with other people and what they need to do. I keep referencing how we're interacting with subs and vendors, but the fact of the matter is that if we don't manage our time, how can they arrive to the job at the prescribed time during the phase so that we can continue moving on with the project? Obviously, you know, on our downtime acronym, it shows up as waiting. We don't want waiting. We don't want mistakes because we haven't properly managed our time. And that is a matter of being proactive. If your project manager is not being proactive, they're looking ahead, they're forecasting. That is what project management is. It's not about individual transactions. And that's what happens a lot of times is project managers will turn into just taskmasters. We don't want a taskmaster. We want someone forecasting. We want someone looking ahead. We want someone being strategic. We want someone that understands how each process component is a culmination of the entire construction project. And so that one is a huge no-no. All right. And so the next one is constantly playing catch up. Well, obviously, we're constantly playing catch up when we don't manage our time, when we're not communicating, when we're not studying, all of those things. It just is one after another. So you can see this is a bit of a pyramid where we're building on. The last thing that is very important to everybody involved is being financially irresponsible. If the project manager has no idea what materials are showing up on site, has no idea what the cost is for X product or this, has no idea what the homeowner is requesting and how these costs can balloon out of control if we have scope creep. You all know what scope creep is. That is where we have a particular scope, and because we've had so many change orders, that the scope is starting to balloon out of control. And if the project manager cannot communicate to you what the costs are associated, you can get to the end of the job and be pretty dissatisfied because your dream has turned into a nightmare because you are bleeding out financially. And so there you have it. Those are the things that your project manager should not be doing. Again, we will link what your project manager is doing. Fraser Homes, we employ outstanding project managers that are spending a lot of time studying and forecasting and working on your behalf. They are not, on the other hand, ineffectively communicating and being irresponsible on your project. And so, if you have a project manager that's doing some of these ugly things, it may mean they don't know the difference.